Hello, everyone, and welcome to AAA Wargaming. We've got a very special episode today because I've been asked to do Masters List Open. Obviously, I cannot be trusted, so they've given me somebody to hold my hand through this, and I've got the man himself, Henry P. Miller. I haven't got a proper full introduction, but I think there's one adjective that could be used to describe him, and it's the same as when my battery commander described two of my soldiers who'd managed to have sex in an Apache gunship. Legend. So, Henry P. Miller, welcome aboard to AAA Wargaming. We're very honoured to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I do watch your videos every now and again, and I do enjoy them. So it's nice to be on the channel.
Oh, thank you. That is high praise indeed for someone like me. I'm very grateful for that. I hope you do enjoy them. I'd welcome any comments.
Yeah, as a fellow Silver Elf player, it's always nice to watch and see how other people are playing and looking at what you're doing right and looking at what you're doing wrong. So it's always interesting from my perspective to watch.
No, yeah. Thank you very much. Well, maybe one day I will finally get to the Masters, but let's not hold our breath at the moment. Without further ado, I think let's go it on. I'm not going to go through. Sorry. I'm not going to go through the what's coming up in the Masters following on from this, but what I thought we'd do is a quick opener on just what it is. So the location is down at Durham Raiders, so it's quite a lot further away from me, up near Newcastle way. There's about 10 players with one spare, and it's a total of 5 games, so pretty normal. The only thing to note is, unlike in previous years, Masters Open winner does not go to the Masters next year. But otherwise, it's a pretty standard 5 game tournament. But there are 2 changes. So game 2 has got a different sort of objective, which Misdirections will go through shortly. And then Capture the Flags has a secret deployment where you write down your deployment types. And I know I did this in Cardiff, and it was actually very good fun, though a lot to be desired for artistic talents, if I'm honest. Um, Henry, what are your any first thoughts on the games at the moment?
I think the misdirection scenario is very interesting, and I'm assuming people knew about it in advance, so I might expect some of the lists to be playing towards this a little bit. Um, I think, as you said, you were going to explain what the scenario is and what the objective is.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, get ready for that one. I think it's a really interesting scenario, and I actually quite like it. I think it'd be quite a fun one as well. So I'm glad that they included this one.
No, I am as well. I quite liked the secret deployment one. Instead of it's quite low tech, but
Yeah.
it's quite funny watching a load of people that paint for a hobby try and draw something. It got quite interesting, but it was very good fun actually at Cardiff. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. My only one, which I said to you earlier, is I quite enjoy marching columns. It's my favourite deployment type, but that may be because I'm a Sylvan Elf player and it doesn't actually bother me that much.
I have the same opinion, and we talked about it before, and I said that Frontline Clash is my least favorite. Frontline Clash and Hold the Ground together is like my least favorite objective and thing to play, and it is in every tournament, and I don't know why people keep doing it, especially Game 5. It's like the deciding game when you're playing Hold the Ground. But as a Sylvan Elf player, like if you're doing well enough to get to like the top tables in Game 5, and then you have to play Hold the Ground, it's like ugh, I would even consider not even taking Sylvan Elves and taking one of my other armies if I saw this and I was taking it very seriously. I would choose a different army because you get to that point and then you're going to get problems in the last game.
No, I know what you mean. I'm quite bad at playing for the objective sometimes, so I think on that one I'd just go. I'm just going to ignore the objective and try and take points off that one. No, I agree. Um, Luckily, it's starting to come in now. Lots of different objectives in the British scene, so I think that's quite good fun. So hopefully 2023 will continue that after this. But yeah, moving on to misdirections. So this is looks it's counter thrust deployment, but after the deployment zones, you both players have 2 markers, and effectively you've got a line down the middle of the battlefield, and each player deciding from who that chose their deployment zone first has to place their marker first, and it must be within 6 inches of the center line, but they cannot be 11 inches within each other. So you just sort of, as the map will show, you're going to sort of get you're going to get 4 markers within sort of about 6 inches of the starting objective across the board. So it's a little like, what is it, secure target? 2 pennies?
4 pennies.
Yeah, but a little more interesting because you've then got to, and then at the end of the deployment phase 7, you each got to pick. You've got to write down on which piece of paper it is, and then you reveal it at the game turn of turn 5. Well, sorry, at the end of game turn 5, players reveal which marker they chose. Oh, I didn't read that specific bit. That's quite interesting.
You have one chance to try and sneak the objective if you were playing for a different one.
Oh, that's quite cool. Okay, that changes it up a bit. I hadn't thought about that.
I think there's only one problem with this. I think because it says 1 inch away from impassable terrain and 11 inches away from other markers. There might be a few tables where it's a little bit difficult to place them. So I don't know how that will work out, but I'm sure people are mature enough to find a fair way of doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder, yeah, and I think it does kind of pose, if you take lots of smaller scoring units, that might benefit you. Actually, I hadn't even realized about the game turn 5 bit, just for that MSU scoring to do a little bit of trickery there. But
Yeah, I think the misdirection name for the objective is quite interesting because you kind of have to play for all 4, but obviously in your head you know which one you're playing for. So you can also kind of fake your opponent out by like deploying in a different way. Like this is actually quite good for Silver Elves because you have quite fast scoring units like Heath Riders. So could have been quite fun, this one. I would have enjoyed this objective at least.
I think I was thinking that as well, actually. Oh, yeah, that would be quite good. Anyway,
18-inch move in the last turn just to sneak
yeah,
the objective that you know which one it is.
especially as it's not going to be the other side of the map. It's not too far
Yeah,
away.
central, right?
Yeah. So maybe this could, especially like Warriors of the Dark Gods, if you took some smaller scoring cav as well, or larger scoring cav just to go onto the objective last bit, that could work as well.
Yep. But you might struggle to place your Sylvan Forest because you can't put them close to the objectives, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that I wouldn't know how to. Yeah, I'd probably just move them on though.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
yeah, I'll just move it on and let my blade dancers run wild. So, I think, sorry, unless there's any more you'd like to say on this, I think go on to the first list.
I think we can go straight on.
Yeah. So the first one is Dr. Ollie Matha and his great. Sorry, I'll just move myself out of the way. Dr. Ollie Matha is Demon Legions. I know he's been running these for a bit now, but I had a look at this earlier today. Actually, I've written some notes down. So, but going through it, he's got 2 Harbingers of Chaos. One is his general, which is on evocation, and is adept on thaumaturgy, and both have got the mark of eternal champion. So that's 2 are the hereditary bolt thrower missiles coming at you. I really
Spear
like,
of Infinity.
yeah, Spear of Infinity. That's the one. Thank you. You've then got 1 unit of Myrmidons with piercing spikes, so that's +1 AP. And then we've got 2 units of 15 succubi. Apologies, I'm just hang on.
You're on the succubi.
Yeah, sorry. So with the succubi, so one's got piercing spike. One's got hatred, and the other's got has got devastating charge +2 for a special item. Then got 6 hoarders with chitin scales and mirrored scales as well. So you've got +2 armor and natural ones to hit are returned onto the attacker. That's a big unit of 24 hit points. I didn't realize they had 4 hit points each.
Yeah, they're so abusive.
And they just get worse and worse. It's like a Sylvanel's worst nightmare. And
Yeah.
then got yeah, and then two Blazing Glories for around the flank. We then got a Threshing Engine with hit point 6 because of its colossal structure and because it's a Horde Thresher, and also its Divining Stance, so it could get a charge range of up to 24 inches. Then got a Titan Slayer Chariot with an extra attack, 5 Sirens with extra march, so massively fast, and then 4 Bloatflies with rerolls to wound against large and gigantic. What are your first thoughts, Henry, on that?
I think it's a very good list. I think obviously it's missing one of the greater demons or two of the greater demons, which you see in a lot of lists. But I think in return you get the bloatflies, you get the hoarders, you get something else. So I think despite it sort of missing those two pressure tools, it's a more all-round list, and I think it will do very well.
Yeah, I was quite interested with the magic actually. I think even though he's only got 2 adepts, there's 6 spells, and it can. I was having a look. It can either do lots of quite damage spells. It can either go for concentrating on the buffing, or it can even go for a double res, which I'd never really thought about before. It's like the opposite of
Yeah,
this double
yeah,
strength.
the
So
Ammertime invocation. Yeah,
yeah, so I quite like that. But yeah, it's also
yeah.
it's got 4 scoring as well, and they're sort of MMU minus the hoarders. But otherwise, it looks it's got quite everything. I really like this list as well.
I think the Divining Snout and the Succubi is a bit of an interesting choice. I don't know what other manifestations they can have, but I'm not completely sure why. It could be that he's just expecting there to be sort of infantry units which have magic banners, for example.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
yeah, that was the one I didn't understand either.
It
Uh,
could just be like a Thor thing.
what thing, sorry?
Like he just wants to fit everything into core. It could be just something like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think
But
the
yeah,
only
really,
thing,
really solid list. That unit of hoarders. Oh,
oh yeah, that's are the Blazing Glories have quite a high AP.
I think it's like the highest in the book. I think whether it's
Yeah.
3 or 4.
Okay.
But so I think Ollie's brought all the tools here. I think he's got a little bit of everything. And I think, as we said, it's like the last objective being hold the center. If he is in that winner's spot by game 4, he's going to be in a good spot to sit those hoarders on the objective and say, "Come at me, bro."
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got some good stuff to countercharge with the Threshing Engine and Titan Chariot. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Blazing Glories, everything Swift Stride, the bloat flies as well. That's a really good counter to monsters and stuff. And you're going to see in the lists that there's quite a few targets for them.
no. So Ollie, you're getting double thumbs up at the moment. Seem to have brought something
Yeah,
different, and just by not using the greater demons, I don't think he's going to miss them.
no,
So Ollie's got the has got a good start. So even though there's not that many lists, we've got a good list opener. The next one is Fred Brown. Henry, as the because you play Highborn Elves quite a lot, don't you? Do you want to take us through this one?
have been known. Yeah, I can take it through. So we've got High Prince, who's the general. He's got Willow's Ward shield, Dragonforge armor with protection of Dorak. So this is giving him a 1+ armor save and defensive skill 9, which is pretty nice. I don't know if it's better than Destiny's Call, but it's definitely something. It's probably slightly cheaper. It might be why. He's got the Sliver of Blazing Dawn on the spear, which is the every hit does 2 hits at strength 5, AP 4, I think. Master of Cranrig Tower, so he's got 5 spells, and that's all the magic in this list. I think that's where my criticism will lie. But we'll. Oh no, he's got 2 initiates. I will get there. We've got Commander, who's the BSB. He's got 2 Ether icons. He's a Queen's Companion with Moonlight Arrows. He's got Longbow, Light Armor, and a Spear. So he's going to sit in the Queen's Guard when we get there. We've got 50 Citizen Spears, Flaming Standard, full command, 5 Lancers, full command, 6 Reavers and a bow, 25 Lion Guard, full command Flaming Banner, 21 Swordmasters, full command Flaming Banner, 2 Initiates of the Fiery Heart, 1 on Pyromancy and 1 on Alchemy. This is the new unit in the High One Elf book. It's essentially a wizard adept on a young dragon. I think they're quite interesting right now at the points value that they're at. I don't know how good they are, but I haven't tried it yet. But I think they could be interesting choice. And he's got 20 Queen's Guard with a spear and musician. So I would, I think I was a bit wrong thinking that he just had the 1 wizard, but he has the 2 additional adepts in the special. I quite like the list in general. I think he's got flaming standards on every combat unit he has, which is good. But he's only got 2 alchemy spells, maybe another alchemy spell with the High Prince, which is just a missile. And I would imagine the High Prince is going to be in one of those combat units. So he hasn't got many options to do the reroll to wound. I don't think necessarily the Lion Guard need a flaming standard, for example, because they're strength 6 already. But I do like the list in general. It's got 3 nice blocks. It's got 1 fast scoring unit, a chaff unit, two wizards flying around zapping stuff, and a good shooting base with a 20 Queen's Guard, which are quick to fire. So all in all, I'd say it's a very solid list, but a very defensive list.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I hadn't picked up on the flaming banners actually, but yeah, I think that's it's a nice combo. But yeah, maybe only taking 3 spells limits the ability to take that. I think, especially it's another list that actually shouldn't do too badly with something like hold the ground. He's got
Yeah,
enough blocks to
exactly.
go and punch out through there, but it's quite static on some level and has got to rely on the Queen's Guard and the magic to, if there's any fast movings going around its flanks, it's got to rely on them to sort of reach out. So if someone has good anti-magic and stuff like that, it could be quite difficult for them, and it could take apart whichever block they want to when they want to. That was my only thought
Yeah,
with this one.
I agree. I agree. He's not got much kind of ranged threat, so I think he's actually going to have to be walking towards the enemy a lot, and he's quite slow because it's all the combat units are infantry. The flyers are good, but they're not going to hold up on their own in combat. And as you said, all the range damage is coming from the Queen's Guard and the Pyro Mage because he's going to need to take 2 buffs on alchemy to actually make use of the flaming banners that he's got. And that might be a problem because 2 of the lists are Infernal Dwarves, and 1 of the lists, or 3 of the lists, are Warriors. So in such a small field, he's probably going to have to be facing a lot of armor, which might be a problem for this list.
Interestingly, I've played Fred Brown once, and it was on a team tournament, and he brought this cavalry met with Fire Mage, Dragon Prince, and it absolutely destroyed me. But that would have actually been, I think, quite good for this tournament. But it was very. I know he's a good player, so well, he made me look very, 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 very bad. So, but yeah, so we'll see how it goes with this one. But overall, it's a solid list, but it might struggle with some of the faster armies. And when we go through the list further on, there are quite a few of them, especially the Warriors of the Dark God list ones, and the
Just
and the
as an
Legion.
just as an example, like the previous list that we looked at, and there's also 2 ogre lists. Aside from the 1 unit of chaff, he's going to get charged by something heavy, like something big and fast. Is going to get charged by it, and like the Swordmasters and Lion Guard can probably hold for a round or 2. The spears are going to get splattered, but hold because they've 50 bodies. But eventually, I think he's just not going to win the grind
No,
in against some of these like more heavier, faster armies.
so sorry, Fred. We think it's a good list, but we think you might struggle in the field. But please
Yeah,
prove us wrong.
yeah, we'd love to see how it does actually.
Mm. I'd love to see the Initiate of the Fiery Heart. I think it's a really, really cool addition to the Highborn Elf list. I think it's whoever designed that is a genius in the way they did that. So hopefully it goes. Right. Going on to the first ID list. So Mark Carroll. Uh, I went through. So I've got to this one. So I thought I really like this list as well. Just because he's got an overlord on a great bull of Shamut. So it's not a dragon, but it's a dragon equivalent. So I really liked it.
It's a dragon with an Aegis save, so it's actually a better dragon.
I did notice that. I was like, why does a flying bull get to have an Aegis save, but a magical mythical beast just go and put lots of metal on you or something? You rely on,
Great question.
yeah. So something for the rules team. Why does a
I
bull
think it's more
made
of
of
a
stuff?
background thing, actually. I think it's because it's somewhat of a demon, so the demon's like
Yeah.
possessing it, so it's like a super, something like that.
No, fair one. Um, it's got. Oh, it can have. Yeah, I didn't realize about Overlord. So they can have two combat weapons, or they have to have two combat weapons with magical. So he's gone for Cleansing Light and Shield Breaker. So it doesn't matter whether you've got a one-up rerollable or lots of fancy special saves. I was a bit confused about the Golden Bull of Shamut. Yes, he gets Glory of Gold, but the other benefits of that really go for someone on foot. So I didn't quite understand that. I thought maybe I was missing something. He's got a Vizier
Because
on.
it's a,
Yeah, sorry.
just to stop you there, I think it's because he's not got an alchemy mage. Um, it kind of makes sense to have that spell because it's a really really good spell, reroll to wound. So it's just I think it's just a sneaky cheap item that maybe people will forget in the magic phase, and he's only got 4 spells otherwise. I think.
No. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good point actually. Okay, I stand corrected. Mark, apologies.
Oh, he's got 5 spells, but so this is the 6th spell, and I think 6 spells is minimum in
Mm,
Ninth Age.
yeah, I like,
So probably
especially
just
at 4,000.
finding an extra spell and didn't want to take Wizard Hat.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a lot more sense now in my head. He's also got a Vizier on the smaller Bull of Shamut. With a battle stand better, so Icon of Asherik, which is Volcanic Embrace when it equals the number of friendly units in 6. He's got an Aether Icon, Essence of Mithril for a 2+ save, and a Great Weapon. So another flying character, which is cool. He's got a Prophet on Nezibkesh, which is an Engineer on 3+. Wizard Adept, Pyromancy, Shield, Alchemist Allied Blunderbuss, and Tablet of Verzadiner. So another one where he can update his magic and it basically turns ones and twos when he's 3 or more into 3. But there is a risk of that. I'm right. Magical Inferno means you. Is that the one where you blow up?
It's like I think it's the 2d6 one.
Okay.
So it basically like pushes the miscast up to number 3 instead of a 2
Okay.
or a 1. I think,
I'll think about that
but
one.
it doesn't matter because the effect is amazing,
Yeah.
and you don't really care when your guys are like res 4 and armored and everything. So
Yeah, that's quite good.
you don't worry about that.
Uh, and then he's got a Vassal Conjurer with Witchcraft, so even more movement shenanigans, and the Book of Arcane Mastery. So, well, actually, no, it's the number 1 spell, so we can start making his stuff faster and hit better. He's got 28 Infernal Warriors with Great Weapon because the Ziggurat Regulars is now gone, and with a Blunderbuss. He's got a second smaller unit with Blunderbuss as well. He's got a unit of 20 vassal levies with paired weapons and bows with Banner of the Relentless Company just to move forward and take an objective when required. He's got 10 Tauric Commissioners with Infernal Weapon and Shield and Stalker Standard. So they're surprisingly tough. Like Res 5, especially when you add Pyromancy, if he gets that -1 to wound off, you effectively got a Res 6 cavalry unit which is relatively mobile and yeah, and not that badly armored either actually. 10 vassal cavalry, that's everyone's favorite. And then he's got a gunnery team with Naphtha Thrower Fires of Industry and Kadim Titan with Walking Earthquake. So, what are your first thoughts on that, Henry?
Ooh, okay, so a few criticisms are don't think that the magic complements each other that much. Like pyromancy and witchcraft are very different paths. So normally you want spells that kind of do lots of the same. He has got +1 to wound if he wants Flaming Sword, and he has got the reroll to wound from the bull, the general. So that's kind of double tapping on one spell. But there's not many other spells that kind of do similar things. So he might be a little bit pressed there when he really wants to try and force something through. Might not be able to. I like the three sort of combat threats: the Overlord, the Titan, and the Vizier. Like running around, flying, being fast, putting pressure on. I think maybe he could have had a bit more shooting. Like paying 300 points for Vassal Cavalry. I'd rather have another gunnery team, for example, or even a war machine. But otherwise, it's the solid, very very solid core. And again, I think this is the third list that we've seen 4 scoring units. So perhaps that second objective is on people's minds when they've been designing lists.
I think so. Yeah, I'd agree with that. The only thing I've pointed out is when I look through the profit of Nezib Kesh, it makes it an engineer on 3+, but I don't actually see anything that benefits from that.
Maybe the gunnery team, but I don't
It's
know.
a
Maybe you have to be a war machine. I'm not sure,
well,
actually.
it does benefit gunnery teams, but being a Naphtha thrower,
Yeah,
it's
Nafta is always hitting on 2+.
yeah. So
Yeah, so
that's the only bit I was confused at because so
yeah, so some lost
yeah,
synergy there.
yeah. But other than that, it's interesting what you say about the magic. I hadn't picked up on that, but yeah, I really like the big blocks for his core. I love the Tauric enforcers after my Wild Huntsman failed to go through them, uh, and then the Blade Dancers failed to go through them. So for 445 points, that's actually a really solid unit if you buff it with the right magic at the right time. But yeah, fair one on the Vassal Cavalry. I agree with that. I would have expected. I think
Even 2 times 5. I don't know if it's
yeah,
I don't know how much cheaper it is, but yeah, 1 times 5 and then add another couple of Torok or something.
because I
I
find
think what
yeah.
5 does the same as 10, pretty much. And paying for Stalker standard, I don't know. Not convinced.
Yeah. Especially because they're light cav, because you can just move around it.
Yeah, it's useful in some situations, but I'm not convinced by that choice.
But I do.
I would have wanted some heavier shooting
Have you ever seen a list with 2 flying characters before
with Infernal
with
Dwarfs.
Infernal Dwarfs?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's standard, but if you take one, then take two. And I don't know if this is the standard setup, but I quite like the choice of weapons on the Overlord. Obviously, you have one for when you need to get through the Aegis save, and you have one when you need to get through the one at rerollable. So he's definitely like the character fighter, duelist guy. So I think there's quite a few characters that might be a bit afraid of him.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd
So
love to
yeah,
see.
it's a good
Yeah,
list.
I'd love to see him up and go against the Warriors of the Dark Gods list. See what character came out there. That'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
And there's a few of them.
yes, that is true actually. So overall, a reasonable list with lots of flying characters and a good solid base. So should do well with the scoring, and we'll have to see how Mark Carroll does. So good luck, Mark. Next one is the first Ogre Khans. Do you want to take us through that list, Henry? Or
Yeah, sure. So the general is the shaman on shamanism, wizard master. He's got Iron Fist with Heart Ripper, and I think this one is always hits on a 3+ and lethal strike and +1 AP. I think.
yep, that's right.
Talisman of Shielding for a 5-up save, and the new Liger's Tongue is enemy units in base contact get -2 offensive skill. So he's probably be going in some sort of combat unit. I would guess the Bruisers. The second Shaman is on Pyromancy, Wizard Adept. He's got Essence of Mithril, a great weapon, Obsidian Rock, and Firebrand. So he's going to probably also sit in a combat unit, probably the same one. Maybe could also be the Tribesman. He could also put both in the Tribesman to make it like a second scary combat block. Then we've got a Battle Standard Bearer with Banner of Discipline, a Khan, obviously, Light Arm with Karkadan's Resilience, which is Res 6, a brace of ogre pistols with Viper's Curse, which I can't remember what it does, but it's like the enchantment that always hits on something and does poison.
It's
And
four,
then
always hits on 4+, 4 shots, strength 4, AP 2.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Cult Leader, which extends the BSB range to 18 inches, which I think is a really good choice. Then in core, we've got 10 Bruisers with Swift Stride Banner, full command, 6 Tribesmen with Iron Fists, Musician Champion, 2 Saber-Tooth Tigers. We've got 7 Bombardiers with the Skull of Kengit, a Musician and a Standard Bearer, and that gives them Fear and Ignore Panic tests, I think, or reroll Panic tests. So that's just to avoid getting terrored off, I think.
I think they're immune. They automatically pass terror checks. So yeah,
Okay.
and they gain fear. But yeah.
Yeah. 2 Thunder Cannons, a Scratapult, and 2 Slave Giants with Iron Fists. So I think this is quite a good list, especially with the objectives. Only 3 scoring units this time, but it's got a lot of shooting. It's also got the Pyromancy and the Shamanism, which can put some pressure on at range. He's got the BSB with the shooting as well. And yeah, I think in general this is actually a pretty solid list. 2 Saber-Tooth Tigers to chaff, the Bruisers to countercharge, the Slave Giants running around being annoying. Yeah, I think all in all, pretty solid list. I don't really see any weaknesses, to be honest.
No, I really like this list. I think it's an absolute nightmare to play. You've got the blocks, the counter charges, single models running around. I think the magic is excellent. I think, and yeah, I think there's nothing more to say about it. I think this is going to. I think Dan Winter's got onto a winner here. I think this has got to be at least top 3. This is one of the ones I read through I really liked, but I am a complete amateur, so we'll actually see after the results.
This is kind of a good example if you think about this against the demon list. Why I like the demon list more is because the thunder cannons would normally give the demons a problem because of the 2 giant monsters, but Ollie doesn't have any giant monsters.
No, true.
So the thunder cannons are not that dangerous for him, which means he can really push at this list. So I think I still prefer the demon one, but yeah, this is a solid list, and yeah, I would say so far probably the second best one we've seen.
Okay. No, fair one. So Dan, you've got another sterling resume from Henry. Don't let him
I'll
down.
make one small comment, but I'm not sure. I don't really know. I think normally I see the slave giants with great weapons, and I've never seen them with iron fist before. So I don't know if maybe that's just a preference thing, but the giants tend to strike last anyway. So giving them strength 7 just sort of gives you tools for things like warriors, which have a lot of armor. So just a small comment.
And it doesn't give them that much more armor either. I mean, a 5+ save is even against like
Yeah,
strength 3 shooting. It's
Harry's
not going to get
okay.
much. Yeah, true. Actually, parry's quite good. Maybe that's why, because they do have low defensive skill just from a personal preference.
Yeah, I think you kind of want to get wounded.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, no, fair one. Okay, yeah. So that's an interesting one. Okay. Right. The next Ogre Kingdoms player, which is James McCormick. So what he's got another Shaman General, Wisdom Master Shamanism with Iron Fist, Liger's Tongue, and Gut Roarer. So that's Gut Roarer's what, +1 res and fear. He's then got 2 Mammoth Hunters. So I must confess, I've never ever played a Mammoth Hunter in 9th, 8th edition, whatever. I know they're bad, but never had to face them just through luck or
They
just
used
bad.
to be really popular,
Hmm. I remember what the
but
Wild Hunt
now
Hunter.
you don't see them so much.
Is there any reason for that, or is it just Shamanism BSB is better?
I'm not sure. I'm not an ogre player, so I don't know. But it's probably something to do with like the way that the lists are constructed. I mean, you either have like 2 or 3, or you have none. And I think probably it's probably something to do with like the lists a little bit more reliable if you go with other characters, because you still need a BSB, you still need a wizard, and then so if you can maybe only fit 2 Mammoth Hunters in now, where previously you could maybe get 3 and a BSB or something. But I think they're going to be in a bit more now with the way that the new Ogre book is structured, with the ability to take a more viable adept choice. So I don't know. We'll see. They're pretty good.
No, reading them, I really like them. So the first one's got Wrestler's Belt, which is +2 attacks and +1 strength. Both Iron Fist, Hunting Spear. I really like the idea of the Hunting Spear with its strength of the user +1. So this one's going to be strength 7 with Wrestler's Belt.
With Wrestler's Belt, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty standard combo. But whenever I play against them, they never hit, or if they hit, they never wound.
Maybe we're gonna suffer that with all these forest princes running around with bolt throwers that it won't worry about wounding because they'll just roll 1s consistently. That's what I'm predicting.
I think so as well. We'll see.
And then Troll Eater, so 4+ Fortitude, and or lead of the pack, so it can pair with the Saber-Tooth Tigers. The second
one thing to note on this one as well is that you still get multiple wounds too, I think, on the shooting attacks as well.
Yes, against large and infantry. No, large and gigantic.
I can't remember the exact specification, but whatever the Troll Eater does, I think you also get that on the shooting.
Okay.
If you didn't already, maybe the Hunting Spear does it already. I'm not sure.
I think the Hunting Spear does, but Troll Eater does multi-wound 2 against large and infantry. Hunting Spear does multi-wound 2 to large and gigantic. I think it is.
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
And then the second Mammoth Hunter is light armor with Death Cheater, Iron Fist, Hunting Spear, Spine Splitter. So that's devastating charge, +1 attack, +1 strength, +1 AP. And I believe that it says it also it affects impact hits and stomp as well. And then also leader of the pack. So that's Vanguard and Swift if it's paired with the Saber-Tooth Tigers. So that's going to be 2 of them running around your flanks. It's got a Khan BSB with Iron Fists. Otherwise, it's got a big block of Bluesers with Banner of Discipline, 2-3 Tribeman Darts, 1 with paired weapons, 1 with Musician, and Champ just 1 with Musician. We've got 6 Mercenary Vets with Iron Fist, Plate Armor, and Lethal Strike with Aether Icon. So these are coming for you. They're not standing off with Ogre Pistols. We've got 2 Saber-Tooth Tigers to give the Mammoth Hunters Vanguard, and then 2 Rocker Rocks with Ogre Crossbows. I liked this list. It's got 2 good blocks to push at you, 2 big monsters to cover them and give some good counter charges. Maybe I'm just fascinated with the Mammoth Hunters as well. It's coming around your flank, so you're going to have to deal with them, and you're going to have to deal with them in your deployment phase, and it's going to affect how you play. Magic is not as strong, but Shamanism is still a really strong lore, and it probably does just enough to get this round your flanks. What are your thoughts, Henry?
Yeah, this is a very different ogre list. This is, I would say, a hyper aggressive ogre list. As you said, you've got to deal with the 2 Mammoth Hunters very quickly, and you also have 6 Merc Vets who are just running at you. I think they probably could have done with Pendant of the Great Grass Sky rather than an Ether Icon. But did we have Obsidian Rock somewhere? No, so I think that's maybe not a mistake, but just something that he could have made it a little bit more optimal. And then the 2 Rocker Rocks as well. So you've kind of got 5 threats that you have to deal with, which is sort of 1 or 2 too many threats for a lot of lists. And you've still got the Bruisers. I think the BSB is maybe a little bit lightly protected, but it's also cheap. So maybe it could just be that he sits at the back in one of the tribesman units, but I would imagine he sits with the Bruisers. So I'm not sure. I would imagine the Shaman's probably going in the Merfolk. Say again?
Sorry, it's another list of 4 scoring as well.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's a solid list. It maybe could be slightly more optimal. But with all the threats, you kind of run out of points really quickly. And trying to fit the 2 Mammoth Hunters in with, I think both of them are 3+4+. it's that's quite scary in itself. So yeah, solid list. I think I prefer the previous one, but it's still pretty good.
No, I'd agree. Though I'd love to play it just to see how bad Mammoth Hunters are. So I'd prefer to play this list just for interest, but I agree. I prefer the other list as well. Cool. So James, good luck. Next is Paul Godbold. Paul Godbold. I'm right. He is the Fantasy Wargaming podcasters, isn't he?
That's correct.
Yeah. So another podcasting royalty.
Should I take this one?
Yeah, please.
So we've got Vampire Count, who's the general with Dead Eyes. He's a wizard master on occultism. Light armor, Destiny's Call, so you can get +1 Aegis from occultism there. So make it 3+ Aegis. Paired weapons with Touch of Greatness, so he'll be Strength 6, AP 3. He's Nosferatu, and he's got Arcane Knowledge. Arcane Knowledge gives you extra range on your spells. And I think Nosferatu now has been changed to just give you the ability to raise skeletons. I
And
think.
Gates of the Netherworld.
Yeah, correct. So you can raise an additional hit point somewhere when you do the Awaken spell. The Vampire Courtier is the BSB. He's got a Legion banner, so you can expect that to go in the Skeletons, which also have a Legion banner. He's got a 2-up armor save with Essence of Mithril. He's also Nosferatu. He's a Wizard Adept on Evocation, and he's got Halberd. So pretty solid BSB build. 2-up save, giving, I think it's like what, static 3 banners, 3 ranks. So that's static 6. Also striking at strength 6 with AP 3. Yeah, solid. Banshee. He's got 40 ghouls, champion musician, 49 skeletons, which can be raised up to, I think, what would it be? 98 skeletons, should you need it. 25 zombies with musician, 8 ghasts with a champion, 2 great bats, 4 winged reapers with paired weapons, and 8 vampire spawn with a champion. This is a really interesting list, Paul. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks where you're going to have probably, I would guess, maybe the vampires sitting in the ghouls, or maybe both vampires and the skeletons. I don't know. You've got Unit of Chaff, 2 great bats, and then the vampire spawn flying around, zombies for scoring. I think it's really interesting list. I think he's missing a raise, and the magic again is, I'm not sure about occultism in this setup. He's got arcane knowledge, which gives him extra range. So you can do grave calls at 24-inch range, I think, now. But it's only strength 5. But the combat buffs are maybe not there. I think it's a very grindy list, but without much grindy magic, it might struggle a bit. Because the Vampire Courtier will want to take at least 1 raise, because you haven't got a raise anywhere else apart from the Vampire count. And that means that you're only going to take 1 combat buff.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, unless he's not going to raise. I mean, all the units are fairly like 4 Wing Reapers, 8 Vampire Spawn, 8 Ghasts, 49 Skeletons, 40 Ghouls. Maybe he's just saying, I'm not going to raise. I'm just going to take 2 buffs from the Courtier. And then, because the Occultism doesn't have that many buffs, it's more of like offensive magic. And then you have the Aegis save. Yeah, it's a solid list. I really like the 5 blocks idea. I don't know if Ghasts are scoring these days.
No,
Probably
they're not. I
not.
checked. No. So he's only
So
gone for 3 scoring.
3 scoring, but they're pretty all solid units. Banshee's really fun to run around. Yeah, really good list. But again, not convinced on the magic setup. I think could have been a bit better.
The only thing I would say about it is there's not that much chaff. So if there's something that can easily beat one of his blocks or a couple of his blocks, he's not got that much ability to slow it down for that long. Is that a bit of a risk, or is that actually not something to worry about?
Well, the bats are probably some of the best chaff in the game because they're so fast and they're so cheap. And the Banshee can also be run out.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So
Yeah.
there are two chaff units there. It's not a concern that I have, but you might be a bit worried because the four of the blocks are very immobile. Two of them fly, so that's not so much of an issue. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be too concerned about that, to be honest.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've. It's another
You
list that.
can with vampires, you can also raise a chaff unit if you want as well.
Oh yeah, sorry. I've not played vampires in years, so I'm absolutely noob on them. But yeah, I must admit, I looked at this list and went, I would not actually want to play this list. There's just too much to chew through. I don't know where I'd start.
Yeah, the two units of flyers is actually quite interesting, both the same price. But that's quite a lot of pressure coming around the flanks. The Wing Reapers, I think, will have to be kept a bit close because uh,
They're not
they don't
autonomous,
have
are they?
autonomous. No, they're not. And the Vampire Spawn, I'm not a big fan because they're frenzied, which also means you probably want to keep them close to the general. So it's not ideal. One of them is okay to manage, but two is good because you have double threat, but then you have to find space for them.
No, that's true. Yeah, and I suppose with Wing Reapers, you haven't got anything to let them play out on the flank. There's no, oh, what's the
No
thing called?
coach.
There's no coach. There's
Yeah.
no crown. And what's it? I'm right. What's the crown that extends your commanding presence range now?
Crown of Autocracy.
That's it.
So yeah, he could have, for example, put Crown of Autocracy on the Vampire Courtier. I think he's actually got points enough for it. So that would have given him a second bubble to help out the Wing Reapers and maybe even the Vampire Spawn as well with the reroll.
Hmm. So overall,
Yeah.
yeah,
Again, it's a good list.
yeah,
I think it will play the objectives very well, but very, very blocky.
yeah. So Paul, good luck. Um, yeah, I do like the large big blocks. I do like gasks. I've got a thought on how I'm going to model some as such as werewolves or something like that. So,
My guests are Skinwolf from Forge World.
all right.
If you're coming to Bristol, you'll probably see them because I'll bring
Oh,
them.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see them actually. That'd be cool. Right. So on to the next one, Shane Baxter, which I did go through. My first thought was effectively another double dragon list. I know it's not quite, but it still, with a shrieking horror, it still does quite well in my books, just from fluff side. So it's
Yeah,
yeah.
I played against this list actually. I don't know if it was this exact list, but it's probably Shane's updated list. I played a similar list against Shane recently, and it was a very good list, and he played it very well. But
Okay.
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so he's got a vampire count on a shrieking horror. It's a wizard adept occultism with paired weapons shield breaker. It's got binding scroll, strigoi, and mesmerizing gaze. Sorry. So obviously,
Running
so it's
Streaking Horror.
its fortitude 4+ won't work from the strigoi though, will it? Because it's
No, but
no,
you have to get the Shrieking Horror. You have to get Strigoi, but the Strigoi does give hatred, so
yeah.
it's okay.
And then, but with mesmerizing gaze, it's -1 attack in a duel. Glaze.
Yes.
So I watched too much Bake Off. Um, so then he's got a second vampire count with a colossal zombie dragon. It's an adept on evocation with halberd, a Nosferatu, and again mesmerizing gaze. So it's able to raise skeletons as well, but that's not a problem with this list. And it's got Gates in Netherworld. He's then got 40 ghouls with Champion Musician, 15 ghouls with Champion Musician, 12 ghouls with Champion Musician, 29 zombies with Standard Bearer and Musician, Court of the Damned, 3 Great Bats, 6 Spectral Hunters, 2 units of 5 the Race, so they're the Reaper ones, and then 2 units of 2 Wing Reapers with Halberd. So, Henry, as you've played this, what's the big what makes it so good? As a layman, I don't
Um,
understand.
all right. So there's just a lot of moving parts here. I think it's not as a good list as what he had when he played against me. He had a Shrieking Horror on its own instead of the Vampire count on the Dragon. And there was the other. I think he had a Courtier, which gave a second bubble, which was really good for the race. and he also could sit in the ghouls with Shieldbreaker. So I think it's not as good as the one that he played against me, but it's a very, very interesting list. I think there's a lot of ways that you can make it better. I really don't like the magic setup at all. I prefer having the adept on occultism because I think it's a less investment for what you can get out of it than the master. But then the only other magic is an adept on evocation on the other dragon. So there's not much opportunities for raising, which I think you kind of have to have in vampires. And again, the combat buffs are not going to be there, and only 4 spells. So well, you've got the Dead Arise as well, but I'm not convinced by the magic setup. I think Colossal Zombie Dragon is worse than the regular Zombie Dragon, like distinctively worse. Um, so that's I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but maybe he just wants to do it because that's what the models he's got. I don't know, or just for fun, just to have two big things running around. Like who knows? But I mean, if you're really trying to optimize the list, I don't think it's that good. I like mesmerizing gaze on both of them. Maybe it's better on the general version because Shieldbreaker and occultism sort of works a bit better with the challenges. The one the dragon only has a halberd, so if you're forced to challenge someone, and then you have to fight something like a chaos lord with what's it like the doom weapon with the D3 wounds, then you're gonna have some problems. Um, so I think the character section could have been a bit better, but the rest of the list I think is really cool. The small units of ghouls for scoring is really interesting. That they're quite tough scoring units.
So they're sort of
Again,
like
four scoring in core. The Court of the Damned is really good. I think if the Court of the Damned goes in one of those ghoul units, it turns them into a bit more interesting combat unit as well.
do you see
The
one
Great
of the
Bats for Chaff,
do you see the Court of the Damned going into the big one of the smaller ghoul units?
I
Or do you
would
see
put it in the 15 ghouls or just have it on its own.
okay.
But I don't know what his plan is. Like when we played, he used the ghouls as scoring units, just kind of in the back picking up objectives. So maybe it's just on its own, but it could be used in the Ghoul unit, just for like just to buff it up, and then you have a bigger combat unit. The 6 Spectral Hunters are really good for their price. Only 208 points. They can be used as chaff. They're also pretty nice in combat because they've got the free up Aegis. The 2 units of Raves, I think 2 times 5 Raves is really, really good. I don't rate like one big unit of Raves. I think the 2 times 5 is like much more interesting. Um, I'm not sure with the vampire general being on the Shrieking Horror, he's not going to be able to run around the flank because the Raves have to kind of follow him around to march. That could be an issue. And then again, we have 2 Wing Reapers times 2, and this might have the same sort of problem. They're going to have to kind of follow the follow the general around a bit because they're not autonomous, and he doesn't have another commanding presence area.
Oh
So,
yeah.
for
Yep.
example, the vampire count on the colossal zombie dragon could have done with
Yeah.
a crown of autocracy, and then that would have given him a second bubble. I think that would have been a way better choice than mesmerizing gaze, for example. I don't know if it's about the same price, but there's some mistakes made in this list, but I really like it still.
So I must admit I've never seen small units of ghouls, but that's quite an interesting one. It's interesting that we've got 2 vampire councilists, both with only potentially 2 raises, and neither have taken the crown of autocracy.
Yeah, I mean, in my list, I think I have the crown of autocracy and 3 or 4 raises, just as an example. Um, but
Yep.
maybe we have different strategies. I don't know.
No,
I
I
mean,
think
this list is not so reliant on raises because it doesn't have the grindy units. It's only the ghouls, really. So 2 is probably enough. But then you're sort of losing your other spells that can actually help you win combats.
yeah, it's an interesting list, and I'd love to. I'll be watching Tawny Keeper quite closely to see how this one does. Just because
Yeah, I
yeah,
think my other criticism would be I think I don't know if you can have it, but another Shrieking Horror would be better probably than 2 Winged Reapers times 2. Just to have a second Shrieker and another flying threat. I don't know if it fits, but
I'm not sure you're
I
allowed
think
because I think if you're allowed to, but if you have something from like Colossal Dragon or Shrieking Horror,
yeah,
it takes one off that
maybe.
list. So I
Yeah,
think,
but yeah, then you kind of go in different route. So yeah, I'm not convinced it's the most optimal list, but it's definitely fun to play.
yeah, it does look fun to play, even as an opponent. Actually, it does look, and it looks like it would be awesome on the tabletop as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
I don't know what if Shane's got like a cool army, but yeah, it could has a lot of potential to look really good.
no. I have a bit of a soft spot for the VC because that's the army I'm going to go and have a look at after I've finished my Winter Silvernails. So hopefully
Nice.
back into this year, this is what it's going to move to. But yeah, good luck, Shane. And next, now we're on to the Warriors of the Dark Gods, with the first one being Tim Botneck. Do you want to take this one
Oh,
away, Henry?
yes, absolutely. So Tim is renowned for some janky lists, and this is certainly slightly janky. He's got 2 Feldrak ancestors with great weapons, 2 of them. A sorcerer who's the general on a war dais with evocation wisdom master. He's got plate armor, alchemist alloy. I think that gives him a 1-up save. Crystal ball and potion of strength. I think probably just for funsies that one. Crystal ball is great. I'm surprised that we haven't seen it yet in any lists.
Hmm.
24 warriors with greed, so they get all the weapons, and Zealot's banner, giving them extra supporting attacks. 17 barbarians with paired weapons, full command icon of the infinite, so giving an extra spell for 5 spells in total. I think you need that 5th spell at least, if not the 6th one, so 5 spells. 2 units of 5 chosen knights, both with wrath, both with full command, both with stalker standard. I think this is interesting. I would probably put a wasteland torch instead of stalker standard on one of them because the ruins are the ones that you care about, and it's a little bit more tactical that you can choose to burn a forest, for example, if you're playing Sylvan Elves, or just something like a field. If yeah, I think it's just more interesting. And then 2 units of chaff, barbarian horseman with paired weapons, shield. So this is five five things that are running at you full speed with evocation behind it, which I think is probably the best path in this setup because you have all the snipes that you can whittle things down with and remove some chaff. I think the barbarian horseman could do musicians instead of either paired weapons or shields. I don't know what the points are, but I think finding 10 points or 20 points for that would have been better, in my opinion. But otherwise, I mean, it does what it says in the tin, right? It pushes forwards and says, fight me or die. Like, the Chosen Knights Wrath are really good. Like Lightning Reflex, first round of combat, pretty strong. Yeah, I mean, it does what it says in the tin.
Yeah, it's quite. I've only played Tim once, but yeah, it wasn't pretty. But yeah, I've watched his list. They're always quite fun when you start reading them and trying to work out what the list does. What is it? I think he's got 6 scoring.
Five scoring. Yeah, 6 scoring. Yeah.
So he's properly gone for it on that. Uh, do you think he's taken the Stalker standard over that because he's sort of maybe had some sort of epiphany about the number of ogre players and other stuff, and he's just gone for break the spirit?
Maybe.
Seems
It
like
could be that for sure. It might just be just to keep it simple. I don't know. He's definitely Tim's the kind of guy that definitely has a plan. So there's probably a reason to have both your Stalker standard that he probably just prefers it over the Wasteland Torch. But my preference is Wasteland Torch when I play Warriors.
so. I like this list. I think it's got something. I wonder if this is one of those lists that someone like Ollie Mathers could struggle against, just because it's quite punchy in your face. It's also got a lot of scoring as well, and with the 2 Feldrak ancestors, those could be quite difficult to deal with.
Flies do really well against these because I think they're quite. I think they have high strength attacks. I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
sure.
sorry, yeah, strength 6, aren't they?
They reroll to wound, so
Okay, I take
I
it
don't
back.
know. I think yeah, he's got the Blazing Glories, which are good against armor. They're probably not going to die in the first round to Chosen Knights, and if you can get both of them into one unit, they should be okay. He's got the Spears of Infinity, which do quite well against the Ancestors and the Chosen Knights. He's got the tools. I wouldn't. That wouldn't be the one that I would be worried about. But I think this is probably up there as well as one of the top lists. It's very very heavy pressure. I'm not
Mm.
sure how my Silver Knights would deal with
No,
this.
I keep thinking about that and like I'd just probably back up and try and dance around, but lose the objective and try and minimize the damage. No,
Yeah,
again,
it
it's
depends what it is because you can kill the Horsemen pretty easy. The
mm,
Warriors can be deleted with Blade Dancers or Huntsmen. Anyway, we're not going down the
we're not
Sylvan
going
Elf
to.
route. But
Ironically, there's no Sylvan Elves in the Masters Open, but I've got a sneaking
yeah,
suspicion there's going to be quite a few in the Masters. Yeah, so Tim's list is looking good. We'll see on to the next one. So next one is Barry Lynch. So he's got a Chosen Lord on a Black Steed with Shield and Dust Force for that 1-up rerollable. Paired weapon. So he's got Greed. So he's got Weapon Master with paired weapons, Great Weapon, Halberd, Hand Weapon with Burning Portent. He's got Immortal Gauntlets, which he can lose a Veil token. He gains Divine, Flaming, or Magical. He's got a Potion of Swiftness, and then Greed and Idol of Spite. Is Idol of Spite the +1 strength over
yeah.
one
It's
round or something like that?
one use only,
Yeah.
and you get +1 strength, +1 AP, +1 attack. I think.
Hmm. So that's quite
So
a
this
powerful.
is probably the killiest character in the whole game, pretty
Yeah, I was
much.
thinking that. It's
Basically, like I don't think you can get more killy than this on paper.
yeah, I'd love to. I think doing the stats on this and trying to run the numbers, especially now the Minor Warlord is no longer as potentially no longer as dangerous as it used to be. Uh, he's got a second Chosen Lord again on Black Steed with Trophy Rack with Waste and Torch, Shield, paired weapons, Great Weapon, another Greed with Great Weapon, Halberd, Talisman, Shielding, Lucky Charm, Green, and Entropic Aura. So that cancels out weapons and armor. So two Chosen
So
Lords
these
there.
guys won't be in the same unit.
No, and wait, two Chosen Lords that are probably very good in any duel or against any sort of character. We've got a sorcerer on Black Steed with Alchemy. So an Alchemist has Plate Master and Book of Arcane Mastery. Two units
Three
of ten.
Wizard Adept, so 3 spells.
Yeah, so three. So two spells. Oh yeah, he's only got. Has he got any other
Book
spells
of,
in his entire list?
Book of Arcane Mastery gives him third spell, but that's it, I think. Yep.
Oh yeah, sorry, they've changed the rules now on it, haven't they? Sorry, yeah, I do apologise. Yeah, so three spells. He's then got two units of 10 Barbarian, Horseman with Light Lance, Shield, Standard Bearer, Banner of Speed, Musician, and Champion, so good scoring darts. He's got two units of 8 Warhounds for Chaff, a unit of 5 Feldraks with Halberd, Standard Bearer, Banner of Discipline, Musician, and Champion, so it's a punchy block. And then two Night Warrior units with Greed, so Halberd, Great Weapon, Lance, Standard Bearer with Zealot's Banner. So that is a fast list. Like that's hyper aggressive and in your face.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much the same situation as Tim's list, but I think Tim does it a bit better. The characters are a bit more better protected and do probably about the same as the two Feldrak ancestors, but the difference with this is that the threats, obviously, I would imagine the characters are probably going to go in one of each in the Warrior Knights. So your threats are sort of more condensed. You've only got 3 pressure units. The Barbarian Horsemen are okay, but I feel like you need a better magic setup to make them actually fight well. And with only 3 spells on Alchemy, it's not probably doing that. 2 Warhounds Chaff is fine. So yeah, I think Barry's got a good list, but I don't. I would way rather play this than against Tim's list. Personally, with the way that I'm playing at the moment, but it's I think the characters are obviously the punch. The Warrior Knights are very good as well. I think the Zealot's Banner is a really interesting choice on them. You know, you can go great weapons for 2 attacks each. So in total, you're like pumping out for like yeah. So you've got 9 guys with 2 attacks each. So yeah, like 18 strength 6 attacks, which is pretty decent.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's.
also like Lancers, if they get to charge something, it's like 18 strength 6 with like striking agility 5. It's like pretty strong. And the characters on top. So yeah, solid list, but I don't think it's going to do as well as the previous one.
I must admit, I'd prefer to play this one just because I feel I can move around it better. But yes, again, if you can't move away and you have to take the charges, especially with those 2 night blocks,
Yeah,
it's you're gonna as long as you can take the charge, you're okay. But if you can't, they're gonna go straight through you and punch
yeah.
some pretty big
The
holes in the
difference
line.
between this and the previous one is that this one only has 3 threats really, and the other one has like 5.
Yeah,
Unless you can run the Chosen Lords on their own, and I don't think you can. There's a few lists with cannons, so yeah, I'm not convinced that the Chosen Lords are as good as the Ancestors, just because you can't run them on their own. They're only 3 hit points each. So I don't
so,
know. We'll see.
no. So yeah, so good luck, Barry. Uh, and now the last one. Am I right? Matt Pell is paired weapons, or is this different, Matt?
Different map.
Different Matt. Okay, sorry. Uh, Henry, do you want to take us through Matt's?
Yes. So we've got Chosen Lord, who's a general, Black Steed, Trophy Rack, Shield, Hand Weapon, Burning Portent. So similar to the last one, but this one's got Talisman of Shielding, Weirdstone, Wrath, and Look of the Dark Gods. So I think Weirdstone is that the first wound you take, you can get a 4+ Aegis against, which to me is not the best choice because you've already got a 5+ Aegis. Wrath in the first round of combat is great with Burning Portent. And then Look of the Dark Gods, I think, is reroll something.
I think it's +1
Maybe
Aegis, isn't it?
is it +1 Aegis? Ah, well, that's very interesting then. So a 3+ Aegis against the first wound is pretty good. So you see, this is different because this one can actually run around on its own, because it doesn't really care about that cannon. It doesn't really care about all the like bolt throws and stuff because it's going to have 4+ Aegis. So yeah, this is like a little bit more interesting as a combat threat on its own. It doesn't have to go and sit in a unit. I mean, there's Warrior Knights on the list, so it might do, but it doesn't have to.
Ah, so
Then we've
sorry.
got
Luck of the Dark Gods is gains Aegis +1, max 4 plus.
okay, so then you don't need a Weirdstone, but okay. Going to the magic, we've got a Wizard Master, Sorcerer on Evocation with Ranger's Boots, so probably going to go into some Fallen. We've got Sorcerer on a Scythe Skywheel, Wizard Adept on Alchemy with Plate Armor. That's quite a cool, fast flying wizard. 24 warriors with ped weapons, standard bearer, zealot's banner, musician champion. Not sure the zealot's banner with paired weapons is that needed, but okay. 7 fallen, 8 warhounds. Then we've got 5 chosen knights, wrath, standard bearer, flaming standard. So going for the alchemy combos there. 5 Feldrax, halberd, standard bearer, banner of discipline, full command. 10 warrior knights with lance, wrath, standard bearer, stalker standard, musician champion, and 5 flayers. So I quite like this list. It's I'd say a little bit more dynamic than the previous two. It's more kind of all comers list. I like the magic setup. I really like the wizard running around in the fallen. Gives it makes it very maneuverable for the evocation magic. The alchemy is good with everything. Synergizes very well with the list. The chosen knights with wrath, like +1 to hit with +1 to hit first round of combat. And we've got again the knights with lances with wrath. So yeah, running in +1 to hit with your lances is like charge and delete, pretty good. And I love flayers as chaff. I think they're one of the best chaff units. So yeah, all in all, I'd say it's a very all-comers list, a very solid list. But I think some of the others will just outfight it. You've only got one, two, three, four. You've kind of got a fifth threat with the Chosen Lord if you can go on its own. So I think this is sort of in between the two other Warriors lists in my estimations. But I like that it's very all comers. I like that it's like one of everything.
Yeah, so the only thought I had with the paired weapons is Flaming Banner instead of Zealot's Banner, just to get that with the Alchemy Adept. There's a chance of getting that rerolls to wound, or a greater chance of getting that rerolls to wound.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would have been a better choice. And maybe you could put the Zealot's banner on the Knights, or did they already have it?
No, they've got Stalker's Standard.
Sort of standard.
Hmm,
Oh no, I don't know. The Zealot's banner doesn't. Oh, it could have been good on the Knights. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Hmm. Otherwise, I think it's yeah. So you're right. It's a solid list, but I think you're right. It's not like Tim Botnick's at the moment with so many different threats coming through. But I do like the magic setup as well. Actually, it's always been quite troubling having evocation and alchemy coming at you, especially on the Warriors of the Dark Gods. I've really liked that combination because it's so painful to play against. But as if
I did make a mistake with the Weirdstone. I just had to
oh,
check what it was. The Weirdstone, it discounts the first hit. So I actually think that maybe he's hoping that this list will the chosen lord will run around on his own. I think that kind of gives you that fifth threat that Tim also has.
yeah,
So yeah, I think this one's actually a pretty solid list.
okay, this should be interesting then.
Yeah, I think the only mistake was, as we said, like the Zealot's banner on the Warriors. I think you have enough attacks. You're better off rerolling to wound, for example.
Sorry. Right, so good luck, Matt Pell. And then the last one is Matt Wilson's. So Matt is the reserve player. I believe he's one of the lead organisings of this. So only playing extremists, I think. I think he's going to be doubly busy just trying to keep everyone in check and herd cats around if cats played with toy figurines. But very quickly, going through its Prophet with Prophet of Shamut and the Great Bull of Shamut. So another one of them. So good fun. Um, He's got a Wizard Master on Pyromancy with a great weapon, Obsidian Rock. I think I've just written down "Burn, Baby, Burn" next to this, so that's just me. That's just me running around doing stuff like that. He's got a Tauric Commissioner BSB with Willow's Ward, Infernal Weapon, Talisman, Shooting Rod of Battle to get that +1. I really like Rod of Battle. I think, especially with ID, I think it works really well and gives you some problems. And it also means that he's got potentially with Pyromancy quite a few combat buffs. So he could potentially take 3. Um,
Yeah, it's quite a nice combo actually with Pyro.
and then he's got an Overlord with Great Weapon with Kingslayer and Infernal Weapon with Cleansing Light, Blaze of Protection, Golden Idol Shamut. So that's that Advanced 4, Movement 12, and Mask of Ages. What does Mask of Ages do again? I've completely.
Masquerade is the 5 up against magical and special attacks,
Okay.
and you get something else. Is it cause fear? Something?
That feels. Yeah, that feels right.
Something.
How do you remember all these rules?
I actually read this one on the train home
Oh, right, okay.
because I wasn't sure what it was, but I can't remember quite off the top of my head. I'll have a look as you continue.
So next is 20 Citadel Guard with Flintock Axe, so no blunderbuss, with Standards Bearer and Stalker Standard. So that's 18 inches, Strength 4, AP2 shooting. We've got 33 Vassal Levies with Spear and Shield and Bow. And their Standard Bearer's got Flaming Standard. We've got 20 Vassal Levies with Paired Weapons, Standard Bearer and Banner Relentless Company, so another unit that can shoot forward and grab an objective. 5 Turek Anointed with Paired Weapons. And 21 Disciples of Lugar, great weapons, Standard Bearer, Banner of Discipline with full rest of command, and a Kadim Titan Walking Earthquake. So I think
So
I'd say
the
yeah,
Overlord,
yep.
the Overlord with the Mask of Ages. The Mask of Ages does give you a 5 up Aegis against the special attacks and magical attacks, and it gives you reroll to hit and fear.
Okay, that reroll to hit is really good. Okay, especially
Yes.
that's quite cool. So I think he's taken a list that he can just push up quite hard. I like the magic. I really like the magic on this list actually, and then it's got some quite a lot of scoring, and then but only probably 2 real combat threats with the Disciples and Toruk Anointed. The rest of it, I think, and maybe the Vassal Levies just as a bit of an anvil. But oh, sorry, no, and the Academy. So he's still got four threats and an anvil in the Vassal Levies. So I think it's a pretty good list actually. I don't think it's the best list, but I think it's quite an adequate one for just if you need to shove it around quite quickly.
Yeah, I actually really like it. I think the Overlord for 420 points, you have the option for Kingslayer with a great weapon. So if you're fighting a character, you can go strength 8, maybe, with AP 5. Or if they have an Aegis save, you can take your Inferno weapon and get Cleansing Light. You also rerolling to hit. You've got a 2-up or a 1-up arm save. You've got you cause fear. It kind of does everything, and it's only 420 points. So yeah, it's a dwarf on foot, but he's going to go in the Luger guys, so you can run around. I think he's pretty fast as well. With oh no,
Oh
it
yeah,
wasn't him.
because
It was
Lugers are quicker, aren't they? They're 412, so that's why he's gone for Golden Idol of Shamut. I
yeah,
think they've done
exactly.
that, yeah.
So yeah, that's what makes him faster. So he can run around with the Lugers. He doesn't have to, but he can. He probably will. Yeah, I like the Citadel Guard with the Flintlock Axe. It works well with the Rod of Battle. So yeah, really, really solid list. And as we said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scoring units. So I think a lot of people have probably seen that objective scenario for round 2 and thought, okay, I need a few more scoring units. I think we only had 2 lists that had 3, but everyone else had 4 or more.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing this weekend. Do you think maybe it's that one objective with Misdirection has triggered quite a few people to take a more scory based list? Or maybe it's just after the update people are starting to look at it more.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, and going back to this one, I think also the 2 sort of monsters is also pretty good. I think where this list is going to fall down is it doesn't have that much shooting, but you do have the pyro. So yeah, the one of the Vassal Levies unit doesn't have bows, so I guess it's just a scoring unit. Only 170 points. I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe this one is not going to have the tools to handle, let's say, like the Warriors, for example. I think without alchemy, you might struggle against the 2 times Chosen Knights, for example, or Chosen Knights and Feldrax, or whatever other contractions there are. So I don't know if Matt gets to play. I don't know how well it will do, but it's a solid list.
Cool. And that is the final list. So now I've got some expert questions for our expert. Who is going to be your predicted winner?
Ooh. Um, well, it's a very interesting meta in this tournament specifically. I think pretty much every army apart from the Highborn Elf army is hyper aggressive. So it's going to be very, very hard to tell which one is going to do well. I think the Demons will do well. I think Tim's Warriors will do well. And I think the Ogre list, Dan Winter's Ogre list, is that the one
Yeah,
that
that
I
that
really
was
like?
the Thunder Cannon, Slave Giant,
Yeah.
Shaman.
I
Yeah,
think I think they're probably my top 3 in the meta. I don't know how good Fred is, but if he can dance around a bit and play super defensive and just kind of consistently win the objectives, and I think he could potentially do well as well. But it depends on the matchups. I think if he's going to get stuck on the Warriors, it might be a problem. So yeah, the top 3 would be Ollie's Demons, Dan's Ogres, and Tim's Warriors.
cool. Do you have a favorite list? Not necessarily the best list, but something actually you find is the most fun, or just something eye-catching.
Um, it would be Shane's list, but it's not. It's not. It's almost really cool, but it's not quite. I would. I mean, I'm gonna go for the elf list because I think that's probably. I like the double fiery heart initiate. I think it's a really cool list. It's not the way I would play it. It's not fast enough for me, but I think it's a really fun. I think it's a really fun list. He's kind of. I don't know if he's thought I'm just gonna try these things out and see how they are. Probably. Um, so I think that's most interesting one for me because I'm an elf player. So
That one. I will put my 10 pence in on favourite list. Yeah, mine is Shane Baxter's just purely because he's got double dragon-esque things in there. And it's not Fred Brown's. Because they're proper character dragons. But yeah, I do like Fred's one. I really hope the Fiery Heart one works. And then last one, just because this is an amateurs podcast on the Masters Open list, as an expert, what what is the one bit of advice you would give to an amateur player? And let's say they play maybe 3 tournaments a year, they just want to get better, maybe not Masters, but they just want to go up the rankings. What is the one bit of advice you can do, apart from say go to more tournaments and play more games?
I was literally about to say play more games. Yeah, I mean, playing more games is probably the best way of getting better. Um, but also, I think stick with something that you enjoy and learn to play it well. Um, I think my philosophy is not necessarily taking the thing that is the best, but the thing that I enjoy. And I find that if I learn to play it well, then I get good results. Like I have 2 examples of this. Like I played ETC for Ireland 2 or 3 years ago, and I played Highborn Elves, and it wasn't like an optimal list, but I did really well with it because I played a lot of games with it, and I liked it, and it was fun, and it fit the way that I like to play. And then my new Silverknife list that I'll be running for Danish Masters in next month. It's just like my favorite ever list. It's just janky and it's got lots of movement, and I really like it, and I'm enjoying playing it, and I'm doing really well with it. So I don't think it's necessarily about finding like the best list, but find a list that you like, learn to play it well, and play lots of games.
No, cool. Thank you. That bodes well for me because I am Sylvanels through and through. Uh, last thing, I haven't put it on the list, but who would you like to see? Have you seen who's in the Masters at the moment?
I haven't, no.
Oh, okay. I won't ask you that question then at the moment. It's worth having a look. There's quite a lot of people who you'd normally not necessarily not expect, but would just be on the cusp of it. So I think it's going to be a really good tournament this year. Let's and just see what happens when it comes out of it. My one is Rory Stoves, just because he's the nicest. He's the nicest man. I'd love him to see him win it, just for me. But anyway, Henry,
Is Tanker playing?
Tanker is playing. It does.
I'll say Tanker.
Yeah, I think that's a popular choice at the moment. He's got amazing scores this year, so he must be on. He must be looking at this Masters, going, "This is his year. He's on form."
So he
Yeah,
deserves it.
yeah, he does actually. He's obviously put effort in. So yeah, I think every tournament I've been to, Tanker has won or at least come second. So yeah, um,
Also a great
yeah,
guy.
yeah, he is actually. He's really nice. I'm chatting to him, but I've never had the pleasure of playing him yet. Just chatting to him in person. But yeah, something to look
He's
forward to.
great fun to play. Really nice as well.
Mm. Henry, thank you very much. That is the end of the Masters Open list review. I can't thank you enough for guiding me through my very first list review.
Yeah,
And
it's welcome.
good luck in the Danish Masters.
Thanks very much.
All right, that's
Maybe if people want to find out what happens, you can listen to my podcast, which is Ammertime Podcast. You can find it on SoundCloud and 90 Forum and whatnot.
it is a fantastic podcast. I listen to it all the time, especially the random ones like Paired Weapons Got Weather. You and Casamir have some different proclivities. What was the beast herd one and stuff like that, on how do beasts have sex and stuff like that?
Yeah, talking about like where I don't know how PC your YouTube channel is, but we're talking about
I
like
always put not for kids
where the
on it.
genitalia are on centaurs
That
and
was it.
all sorts of stuff.
It's good fun.
Yeah, if you like listening to people getting drunk and talking shit about ninth age, then it's a great podcast to listen to.
No, I absolutely agree. No, thank you very much, Henry, and that's it for AAA Wargaming. And good luck to all those in the Masters and the Masters Open. Have a good one.